Hi, my name is Brittany Tretbar, and this is my presentation over the International Development Overview of Rwanda. Here is an example of my outline for this presentation. In Part 1, I will provide the background information. In Part 2, I will describe development approach. In Part 3, I will explain the international actors involved. First, Part 1, the background information. Rwanda is a landlocked country in the Great Lakes region of Central Africa. The political, social, and economic context of Rwanda is profoundly affected by the civil war of the early 1990s and genocide of 1994, and the country continues to deal with the consequences. Although Rwanda has made significant progress from the 1994 genocide, it still remains a severely underdeveloped agrarian-based economy, with around 60% of the population living under the poverty line. Currently, Rwanda's land resources are utilized in an inefficient and unattainable manner, which limits the profitability of land and infrastructure while aggravating the national capacity to retain rainwater. As a result, only 52% of Rwandans have access to clean water. Also, the prevalence of malaria, which is 48% of hospital consultations and health centers, and of HIV/AIDS, which are 11.2% of the total population, is high and constitutes a major economic problem. Furthermore, here are some of the challenges. Today, Rwanda finds itself at a crossroads, moving from the humanitarian assistance phase associated with the 1994 genocide into one of sustainable development. Some of the factors for these challenges are diminishing agricultural productivity and arable land distribution, natural barriers to trade, narrow economic base, weak institutional capacity, low level of human resource development, public debt, and finally, social and economic consequences of the genocide. Here is a quote by Majid Rahman. He states, "What we call aid money serves only to strengthen the structures that generate poverty. Aid money never reaches those victims who, having lost their real assets, look for alternative ways of life outside the globalized system of production which are better suited to their needs." This brings us to the second part, the approach. For the approach of development for Rwanda, I will explain post-development theory. Post-development theory entails a framed approach toward the social construction of the country's reality. Drawing on the ideas of Wendell Berry, Mahatma Gandhi, Ivan Illich, Leopold Kohr, Fritz Schumacher, and others, post-developmentalists believe that the true problem of the modern age lies in the inhuman scale of contemporary institutions and technologies. Therefore, to make a difference, actions should not be grandiosely global, but rather humbly local. In general, post-developmentalism rejects the way of thinking and the mode of living produced by the modern development in favor of revitalized versions of non-modern, usually non-Western philosophies and cultures. Why this works? In this approach, the assessment of the country's progress is determined through the experience and intent of the people, as opposed to the ideas from the West. Understanding development outcomes cannot be limited to the analysis of the volume of aid, type of aid, and identity to the donors, but must also consider the relationship between aid and political, economic, and social structures in the recipient country. Furthermore, aid is not a factor leading to particular development outcomes. Instead, it is a product of particular histories, interactions, and relations. Which brings us to part 3, the actors involved. The first actor is the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP. The role of the UNDP continues to evolve with Rwanda and aligns with the goals of the government. UNDP Rwanda works hard to ensure national ownership and to help the government harmonize and align support from development partners. UNDP contributions in the areas of democratic governance, socioeconomic policy, and economic management, the fight against HIV/AIDS, the promotion of gender equality, and the protection of the environment, which are in line with the government priorities, have helped the country to achieve real gains in recent years. In sum, the UNDP can be counted on to help Rwanda align the UN organizations with the government's priorities for the development process. The next actor is the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID. The USAID is another key factor for Rwanda in the development process. USAID investments focus on enhancing private sector competitiveness with the focus on increasing market access and supporting the government of Rwanda in removing barriers to private sector growth. USAID is also helping Rwanda with regional trade growth by improving trade facilitation policies, increasing the competitiveness of Rwandan products, and upgrading infrastructure at border post. Support from USAID has resulted in a 46% reduction in time for goods to clear customs, a 64% reduction in export release time, and a $225 reduction of import costs per truck. Next, the harmful development actors. UNGOs have become key actors in responding to development issues such as poverty and related suffering, but there are some concerns for their role as development actors. NGOs have been criticized for only benefiting themselves because they tend to focus on technical solutions to poverty instead of the underlying issues and are more accountable to their funders than those they serve. In conclusion, while there is still a lot of room for improvement, the developmental state of Rwanda continues to be on the rise. Rwanda's priorities in achieving its development goals is outlined in a long-term project called Vision 2020, which aims to transform the country from a low-income to middle-income country by the year 2020. Vision 2020 was conceived to provide a basis for a new start to build peace and prosperity in the 21st century by addressing the consequences and institutional problems that were deemed responsible for genocide. As a result of its progress so far, Rwanda has become one of the frontline countries in the new architecture of development aid. And here I have provided my references. Thank you for watching this presentation.